All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. A little bit of a exclusive interview here. I'm joined by former Philadelphia Flyers defenseman, part of the Broad Street Bullies, won Stanley Cups with this team. So many stories. Just recently turned 80 years old. Happy belated birthday as well to Mr.
Thank you.
Joe Watson. Joe, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, fine. I love to talk hockey with people that are knowledgeable and whether they're knowledgeable or not, just like hockey and it's an exciting game. It really is an exciting game. I remember when we played or when I played, it was very exciting for us and exciting for the fans. And I know the Flyers are in a little lull right now, but they're going to come out of this because of the people that we have in place now. Danny Briere. I think Danny's going to do a great job, and also Keith Jones. Keith Jones is a very intelligent guy, and he knows the game, and he knows the players, and so on and so forth, because he's been doing television for many years. So it should be a lot of fun rebuilding our team into where it should be, the top of the league. And when you look at the Flyers, Chris, there's only one team that's been to the finals more than the Flyers since 1974. The Montreal Canadiens have been in the finals 10 times, and the Flyers have been there 8 times.
8, yep. Mm-hmm.
There's no other team in the National League, with the exception of Montreal, being in the finals more than the Flyers.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's kind of interesting, Joe. I think when you look at it, because the Flyers have never really been down this road, right? I mean, obviously you were here when they won from literally the start of the franchise.
Yeah.
Just besides right now, it's been mostly pretty good seasons. I mean, obviously, these past couple of years have been rough, but outside of those couple of years in the early '90s, before the Lindros era, it's been really competitive years for this team. So why don't we start there? I guess we'll kind of transition from the team now and then into your career a little bit. Just kind of going off of that. For you, Joe, as a original Flyer and someone who won here and saw the city at its greatest with this team, what are some of the things that you kind of think that the team needs now?
I think they have to be better in their own zone.
Mm-hmm.
They make too many defensive mistakes in their own zone. It's not only the defense; forwards got to come back and help out, and also the goalie's got to do a good job too.
Right.
And I think sometimes the goalies are left out to dry because there's too many rebounds and too many great scoring chances because the defense and the forwards are not picking up their players who are coming in the zone. And I think once they get that straightened away, I think their coach, John Tortorella, is the right guy for this team. And he certainly demands respect and discipline. And in order to be successful and win, you've got to have a lot of respect for one another, and you've got to work hard for one another and play as a team. Don't play as individuals. I remember in 1969-70, we had a couple lean years there where we got beat. We were leading. We were tied with. There's one game in particular in Buffalo, and there was a face-off in the Buffalo zone. 12 seconds to go. They win the face-off. They come down and let a shot go, and Doug Favell tries to make the super save between the guy shot the puck. Jerry Meehan shot the puck between the blue line and the red line.
Mm-hmm.
Fabi misses it with his glove, and it goes in the net, and we miss the playoffs. And I think that we realize in order to be successful, we have to have another goalie come in. And of course, Bernie, they traded Bernie after the second year, and
right.
2 years later we got him back, and the rest is history.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for guys like that, and I think for you, Joe, and I'm curious, kind of what you think with this, when you guys had kind of got Bernie and were kind of getting into that type of team where you guys were kind of building and into that. Obviously, you were here, from the expansion.
Yeah.
This is probably just a two-part question. First of all, how did you kind of find out that you were picked as a Flyer? And then kind of going into that, when did you kind of realize that this was kind of the start of building a legit Stanley Cup contender?
Well, I'll tell you how I found out that I became a Flyer. When you play hockey in the National League, my first full year in the National League was 1966 with Boston. And I made $7,500, and $7,500 was a lot of money at that time.
Right.
I remember brand new cars were only $1,800, And but anyway, I was flagging traffic about 10 minutes after 7 in June, and this guy says, "I just heard your name in radio." I said, "Oh yeah, what'd you hear?" He says, "You got drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers." I said, "What?" I didn't know there was I knew there was an expansion team. I didn't know what the name of the team was. But
Right.
in a way, I ended up coming to Philadelphia, and it was very initially a very shock for me, but it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened because we got a guy. The Flyers drafted a guy named Bob Clark a couple of years later, and he was a born leader. And the old saying is, "As Clark goes, the Flyers go," and that certainly held true in our situation.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, and then of course we realized we needed a goalie, and we got Bernie back. And I remember the very first Bernie played, the game he played back here. We played an exhibition game against the Rangers. The Rangers scored 8 goals on him in an exhibition game.
Yeah.
I said, "Holy Christ! Don't tell me this is the way it's going to be." And of course, it never ended up that way. But that's the way it started.
Wow, that's crazy. So just kind of going off that. So you get taken, you hear it over the radio. Like, what was kind of going through your mind? Did you have any idea like where Philadelphia was on the map or anything like that?
Well, good question. I knew. No, I didn't. I knew that the Phillies were a baseball team, and I remember Johnny Callison. I remember I was a close baseball. I watched baseball a lot, and I played baseball quite a bit.
I heard you're a big baseball guy,
I
Joe.
remember Johnny Callison hit a home run in the 15th inning, I think, of the All-Star game, and he was a Philadelphia Philly. And I remember that, and that's the only thing I remember about Philadelphia. And of course, coming here, a new team and new adventure, new horizon, and everything else, and you didn't know what to expect. But like I said, early or late in February when we lost the roof in the Spectrum, we were like vagabonds. We played our last 21, 22 games on the road, and we were all over the place. And Elsaf Acre and Mr. Snyder, there was no money coming in, obviously, because we weren't having any home games. And there wasn't a lot of advertising that was going to supplement his income. So he realized he needed an infusion, and he went to about 4 or 5 different banks in Philadelphia, and they all turned him down. And then he went to the Girard Trust Bank, and there was a guy named Bill Bears, I think it's Bill Bear, and he was a big hockey fan. He's a Bostonian, and he played for Harvard, and he was a season ticket holder with the Flyers. And Mr. Snyder went to him and told him, "If I don't get $2 million in my account, I'm going to have to, sell the team or do something drastic." And Bill Bear says, "Listen, you'll have $2 million in your account Thursday morning." And Ed gets up early, goes to the bank. There's $2 million there. The rest is history.
Wow.
Ed became a billionaire because of his involvement and his business doings and so on and so forth. And he was a wonderful man, wonderful owner, greatest owner in Philadelphia they've ever had.
Wow, that's incredible.
Sports, not only the Flyers, but other sports too.
Yeah, it's crazy, Joe, because I think there's a lot of stories, like that about Mr. Snyder, and I became a fan. It was pretty close towards the end for Mr. Snyder when unfortunately his passing in 2016. But just kind of going off of that, like, so many people have so many stories about him and what he meant to them. What did Mr. Snyder kind of mean to you?
What's that again?
Just for Mr. Snyder, like what did he kind of mean to you? Like, what was his presence kind of like for you?
You know what he wanted to do? All he wanted to do is win.
Yeah.
He'd do whatever it took to win. And there's nothing wrong with that. And he lived and died with us. When we lost a game, he was all upset. We were all upset and everything else, and he realized that. And certainly wasn't from lack of trying. We just got beat by a better team that night.
Right.
For the most part, he says, there's nothing we can do about it. Just put our head to the grindstone and start grinding out the next game again. And I remember 1973. We played Montreal in the playoffs, and we won the first game in Montreal 5-4. McLeish scored in overtime. and then we lost all the other games. Right there, we were leading Montreal 2-1 second game, and they beat us. I remember Larry Robertson scored a goal from center ice, and Fabi was our goalie. Pavel was our goalie, and he shot the goddamn puck from center ice, and Jesus Christ, it went in. And that's when we realized we needed a goalie. But anyway, we really made it tough for them, and they went on to win the cup that year,
Right.
Montreal. And I think they were fortunate to beat us. So I think if we had an excellent goaltending, we could have made it very difficult for them.
Right.
But anyway, that's when they went and got Bernie, and of course, the rest is history. But Mr. Snyder, all he wanted to do was win, man, and there's nothing wrong with that. Holy God, he would do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah.
He wanted to make sure the players were happy, the wives were happy. His wife Myrna would take the players' wives out 4 or 5 times a year on a trip. They would go to New York sometimes and bus and have a great shopping time, and so on and so forth. And it was a wonderful thing to see. The family's happy. A happy wife is a happy household. You might say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just kind of going off that, Joe. I asked around when I originally we planned this, and I've heard this, and I'm curious if this is true, and you could tell the story for me. That you were invited to the New York Yankees spring training in 1969. Is that true?
No, that was 1960-61.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So
yeah, I was 17 at the time, and I was playing in the BC Senior Baseball Championships in Victoria, British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
And I got picked up by a team in our league. You were allowed to pick up 2 players from a team in your league. We had a 6-team league, and I was picked up by them, and I went down to Victoria, and I won I was only 17 at the time, and the scout was Eddie Taylor, is a guy from Seattle. He was a Yankee scout, and I didn't know this, and he came down after we finished. We got knocked out in the finals, and he said that he introduced himself, and he said he'd like to talk to me, and I said, "Oh, really?" So I said, "I'm a big baseball fan. I love the Tigers. Detroit Tigers are my team." But anyway, he says, "Would you be interested in going to the Yankees training camp, which was in Fort Lauderdale at the time?"
Right.
And I said, "Oh gosh, you know what? That's so nice of you, but I'm a hockey player. There's too many Americans play baseball, and I don't think I'd have a chance." He says, "Well, the way you hit the ball, you might be able to do pretty well in it." And I says, "No, I appreciate the offer and everything else, but I just said no. I was playing junior hockey in Estevan, and I just thought I had a better chance of being successful there in hockey than I did baseball. But I love baseball. The Detroit Tigers are my team.
Mm-hmm. Still your team now?
My team, and Cincinnati is a team in the National League."
Okay, gotcha. So I'm assuming you've kind of converted to a Phillies fan a little bit over these past years.
Well, yeah, I love the Phillies. Oh, I watch the Phillies. God, yes.
Gotcha.
But I'm still, like I said, Detroit fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a Cincinnati fan in the 50s when they had Big Ted Kluszewski and Jim Constanti, and they had Wally Post, and there was a collection of guys, and they called him the Big Ted Kluszewski. He had arms on him like a big wrestler, a big Klu. He was so big, and he was a first baseman. And I just thought, oh, that was great because he could hit the ball a long ways. And so I followed the Cincinnati Reds, and I still follow them, not as much as I used to, but the Phillies, the Phillies. Oh, I like the Phillies, Christ, yeah. And but the Tigers are my team, still my team.
Right.
And how I became a Detroit Tiger fan was in 1953. My mom, we lived in way up in northern British Columbia, 150 miles from Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom said, we're going to go visit our relatives in Bessemer, Michigan now. Bessemer, Michigan. We took a 7-day train ride to Bessemer, Michigan. It was hotter than the hinges of hell in July.
Wow.
7-day train ride.
Wow.
And we didn't shower. I don't recall ever showering. We never got off the train. It was crazy. We got up. We had to make a few changes, but other than that, we had to go there. And we got there on a Saturday afternoon. It was hot. It was really hot. And my cousin Jimmy Reikovich said to me, he said, "Joey, would like to watch a baseball game tomorrow." And I said, "Oh yeah." And he said, well, the Detroit Tigers are playing the old St. Louis Browns. And so I said, okay. So we watched that game. Now, are you a big baseball fan?
Yeah, so it's funny because me and my dad kind of share that a little bit. Like, my favorite sport's hockey, and his favorite sport's baseball, and then our second favorite sports are like the opposite. So my second favorite sport is baseball, and his is hockey.
Baseball.
So like, yeah, so we kind of like interchange with that a little bit. But yes, I am a baseball fan.
Well, in a way, okay. Are you okay? So where did the St. Louis Browns go that move to the next year?
Oh, I don't know. That honestly,
Huh?
I'm not sure, Joe.
Well, they became the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, 1954. And I asked that question with a lot of people that know baseball, and I probably asked that question 1,000 times, and maybe 3 or 4 people have got the right answer.
Oh wow. Yeah, you can add me to the list for the wrong one. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I'm into baseball, but not like I am hockey. Like, I'm like total diehard Flyers fan. But I've never been able to kind of get into baseball the same way. It's just not how I am. But Joe, just kind of going off that, you mentioned earlier when the roof collapsed. Did you have like any thoughts like when that was going on? Like, you guys playing a lot of like 21 home games, I think it was, on the road, or 21 straight on the road or something like that. Just kind of tell me what you were thinking.
We played 21 games on the road, and we were playing games in Quebec City. We were playing Toronto.
New York too, right?
We played in 4 or 5 different locations. And one of the worst fights I ever saw, probably the worst fight I ever saw in hockey, was we had a guy named Larry Zazel. He was a Jewish player, and he was a tough guy and everything else, and he was in our team. And we were playing the Boston Bruins in one of our home games in Toronto, and they had some of the Bruins guys were yelling at him and making snide remarks about his religion and everything else. And I remember being on the bench. I come back to the bench after a shift, and Rock and I are playing together. And he comes to me. He says, "Joe, if I hear one more remark about my Jewish heritage, I'm going after the guy." Well, we get on the face-off there, and there's a guy named Eddie Shack who started making fun of him again, and that was it. They dropped the puck, and Larry and him went at it with their sticks. They were hammering each other. I could not believe it, how hard they're hitting each other. And the fight ends, and they go in medical rooms and get stitched up. In Toronto, they had the medical rooms were adjacent to one another. And Rock is in one area and one room, and Shaq is getting stitched up in the other one. And Seidel finds out he's in there. The Rock had 4 needles in his head. They were stitching him up. There's blood all over Hell's Acre, and he had 4 needles in his head, and they're stitching him up and everything else. And he gets up from the bench. He goes running in there to fight Shaq again. Thank God the police were there, and they prevented from getting in there. But it was kind of crazy. That's the worst fight I ever saw. I've seen some real Donnybrooks and everything else, but that was a 1-on-1 battle, and my God, I could not believe it. They were swinging from the rear end and just hammering each other. But it was the worst fight I ever saw in hockey.
Wow.
Worst fight.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Dave Schultz is probably on that list at some point.
Oh, yeah. There was well, he was our Schultz was our best fighter. There's no doubt about that. Now, there's other big guys, too, but Schultz would be fighting a guy and swinging from the right hand, and he might not do well right-handed, so he switch hands and go left-handed, and he'd hammer a guy, and the guy would go down. The fight's over. He had that so many times. He would just switch hands to the guy and ding him, and the guy would be down. And that's it. Lights out, Scout. Yep.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. You weren't around, I guess, when he was playing, were you? No.
No, I was born in 03, so I've only seen.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've only seen X amount of these past couple years. Mainly when I started watching was the Giroux era. The first year that Giroux was captain was
Giroux
the first.
Came, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So pretty much from these past 10 years or so.
Yeah, but I remember Schultz one time fought Terry Riley 3 times in the playoffs in Boston.
Oh wow! Same series.
And he annihilated him 3 times.
Wow, that's
In
crazy.
the one game in Boston.
Oh, one game. Oh my God.
One game, yeah.
And he kept
Fought
and
him
he
three
kept
times
coming
and beat him
back.
3 times, yeah. Huh?
He kept coming back after the second time.
Yeah, O'Reilly thought he eventually would get him, but Schultz got him 3 times. Beat him 3 times. And Terry O'Reilly was a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was a tough player, but Schultze was no challenge for Schultze. And I remember Schultze had some big fights with Pierre Bouchard. I remember in the playoffs in 76.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy that wanted to promote a fight between Schultz and Pierre Bouchard after the playoffs when they beat us and won the Stanley Cup. And the National League wouldn't let them do it because they would have sold the building out to watch these two guys go at it in the ring. It was kind of crazy, but they tried to do that, but the league wouldn't let them do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Joe, I just have one last question for you. It might be a little easy for you, or maybe probably a little too obvious. But if you could pinpoint one moment that's your favorite as a Flyer, what would it be?
Oh my God, eh? Oh, that's a great question. Holy shoot. Okay, I was the last guy to touch the puck when we won the first Stanley Cup. If you remember, I don't know. You probably don't remember.
In the video, I've seen the video. Yeah, I've seen the video, and everybody starts jumping, and that's you behind the net.
And so anyway, Orr shot the puck down, and it missed the net, and I got behind the net with about 7 seconds to go, and there's nobody near me. So because once I touched the puck, the face-off was brought back in the zone, so I didn't want to do that. So I waited until somebody came near me, Wayne Cashman. And he came near me, and I touched the puck. There was 4 seconds to go, but and there's so much noise and pandemonium in the building that people were jumping on the ice and everything else, and the face-off would have been back in the Boston zone anyway, so they called the game. But but anyway, and then Terry Chris, little rascal, he made a beeline. The game's over. He makes a beeline for the linesman. I gave the puck to the linesman for the face-off, and and it's over, and he goes and grabs the puck from the linesman. He still has the puck today.
He kept the puck from game 6.
Yeah, he has the puck from the first Stanley Cup. Yeah, the Hall of Fame won it, but he won't give it up.
I don't think I would either if I was in that situation.
No, you're right. I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
but I should have taken the damn puck. He shouldn't have got it right. He played about 4 or 5 shifts.
Wow, that's crazy.
But we had a big party here recently. Maybe a year and a half ago or something, and Crispy came to Philadelphia, and he showed me the puck, and he has the puck. I said, holy Christ, man.
That's so funny.
Oh, God, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm just curious then, is there any like equipment and stuff that you still have from playing, or pucks or sticks?
Oh, yeah,
anything?
I have all my hockey equipment from '78, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I still have the equipment. You know, we used to play a lot of alumni games, and
yeah, I
had an underwear for over 30-some years, and I had it washed every year, maybe once or twice every year. I didn't want to wear it out, so I didn't want to get washed. So I wear the damn thing without showering, without getting it clean. But my wife eventually had to throw it away because it had too many rich rips in it and everything else. But I still have my hockey. I have my hockey pants, my shoulder pads, my elbow pads, and my shin pads, all that I had when I retired in '78.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I really do appreciate you, giving the time and the insight, and hopefully we could do it again sometime.
Yeah. Well, I have a book coming out, Chris, in October, November.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Actually, just for a minute, just talk about the book. I meant to ask you about that too.
There's a lot of good stories. There's stories in there. I just relate some of the stories to you. But there's my history as a young boy growing up in northern British Columbia and what it took to, I didn't want to live in that environment the rest of my life because there was nothing to do up there but work in a lumber mill, work for the railroad, or work in a mine, or be a farmer. And I didn't want to be any of them. So thank God I chose hockey, and I was fortunate to get out of there, and I dedicated myself. I wasn't a fast skater, but I understood the game. The main thing is I understood the game, and I could play the game, and I play within my own limits, and it worked out well. But the book has taken over 2 years to write it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 14 chapters, and there's a lot of good pictures in there, and So I'm very excited about it, and I've had a lot of people inquire about it, so that's good. So it'll be out in probably October or November. Right.
Okay. Of
Yep.
this year, right? So a couple months.
Yep.
Awesome. That'd
Yep.
be great. Yeah. So, I think for me, I'll definitely be checking it out. Sounds great. And for
Sure.
you and obviously your insight and for Bill too, because I've been reading Bill for a lot of years now. He's great too. So,
Yeah, Bill Belzer is. You know what? I'll tell you what, Chris. We went to Russia here 5 years ago, playing Russia, and Bill came with us,
yeah.
and we had a great following when we were over there. He was writing stories about us every day from Russia, and a lot of people were inquiring or following us and everything else. And I said to myself, if I ever decide to do a book, I'm going to get him to write it. And great writer, and he's done a hell of a job with the book, and I'm very excited about it coming out. And so it'll be good reading.
For sure. Awesome. All right, Joe. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, Chris. We'll see you again around sometime, and then call me back if you want to do another. You know what? Maybe in November or something. Call me, or when the book comes out, and we can talk about the book if you'd like.
Yeah. Anything. That would be awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah,
again.
you got my number, so just give me a buzz, and we'll try to do that. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Joe.
Take care, Chris. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You too.